Hey guys, so I'm here with Chris Norwood on the Milpitas Unified School District School Board. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Chris Norwood, 40 plus year resident of the city of Milpitas. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Christian Leadership and Biblical Theology. I'll be married 20 years this May, two children. I'm a product of Silicon Valley. I'm currently employed at Stanford University as a systems administrator. Um, I'm currently the vice president on the Milpitas Unified School District Board. But as you know, when we are in public, we are normal citizens because the board is a governance team. So the things that I share here with you today are basically my own personal opinion. But if I do have any factual information that I can share that is going on in the district, I will definitely do that. I'm also the founder of a private nonprofit organization called Bay Area Tutoring Association. Graduating class, Milpitas High School, class of '83, Milpitas High School Hall of Fame, 2015. And again, board president 2019 and currently, and been board president 2020, 2017, 2018.
Cool. That's quite the resume there. I have to go back and congratulate you on 20 years this May. That's impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Good. That's
20
good.
years this May, May 17th, 2000,
Wow.
we got married. Yep.
Ooh, congrats, man. That's huge. 20
Rare
years is a
air.
nice milestone.
Yeah.
um,
Rare Air Club.
yeah, me and you have always kind of connected, and I think I know why now. You know, me and you are both, you know, deep roots in Milpitas, and you know, we both kind of grew up in the school system and all that, and we're both now heavily involved in Milpitas and have Milpitas best interests at heart. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about you is at the end of the day, you know, with your position on the school board, you've always just had the students' best interests at heart, and you know, all of the board members do. And I just kind of have to single you out right now as someone who I highly respect in that stance.
No, I appreciate that. And what I've learned as being a board member is that the students are surrounded by a village. It's the custodians, it's the secretaries, it's the bus drivers, it's the teachers, it's the administrators. A lot of folks go into the students. So when you hear folks that we're doing it for the students, they are surrounded by numerous adults that are, you know, striving for them to be the best that they can be. I'm a product of Milpitas schools. Joseph Weller, Thomas Russell at Milpitas High School. My kids went to Senate, and my sister went to Spangler. So I've got Spangler, Rancho, Russell, Weller. I told the school board, I told the staff one time, the first girl I ever liked went to Rose. So, you know, I've got all kind of community, you know, going on in Milpitas.
That's funny. The first girl I ever liked went to Rose too. That's yeah. I went to Rose, Rancho, and then MHS.
Okay. Okay.
So you know, I'm a product of MUSD myself. It's an honor to have you here on my podcast. And you know, for all the Milpitas peeps watching out there, this is couldn't be in a better timeline, just because I think there's a lot of questions out there about what's going on with the you know, schooling right now and with this COVID-19 stuff. And you know, I asked Chris to be on my podcast, and we can kind of just talk about it and kind of get everything on the table. So Chris, kind of what's your take on just kind of what's going on right now, just as a general, and we can get in on specifics later, but as a general take, what's kind of your perception of what's going on right now?
So thanks for asking. So my thoughts from a global perspective. The world is dealing with a human health crisis called COVID-19, right? And the COVID-19 pandemic sort of reminds me of the movie Contagion. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it was very similar. You know, COVID-19 stands for coronavirus disease that started in 2019. And the health crisis combined with the economic repercussions, social media, mass communications, fear and uncertainty, has created, has allowed us to see, one, how fragile our world is, and how there's a lot of inequity that's out there that we need to figure out how to work together better as human beings. You know, those are my thoughts from like the big 50,000-foot view, watching everything that's going on around the world. My thoughts from a Milpitas perspective, as the senior governance leader of Milpitas Unified School District. And again, this is my perspective of being on the board and living in Milpitas for, again, 40 plus years, is that I have a deep concern for the health and well-being of the entire Milpitas community, the staff, the students, and their families. This is, you know, this is unprecedented. You know, you hear the words uncertain, you know, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's folks that are trying to connect the dots in a lot of different ways, as we all are, but some have the ability to do it better than others. And so, but when it comes to our public education system, you know, our teachers care about our kids, and our kids are used to a structure, our families are used to a structure, and all within the last 30 days, that's been disrupted for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Things are just kind of crazy right now.
And
So
I think I'll also add the fact that, you know, I'm also filled with an unwavering commitment, and appreciative of how the district and the association leaders and everyone has responded in support of the Milpitas community in partnership with the city of Milpitas, the county, regional governance leaders, and a whole bunch of other folks. You know, the school district has kind of been on the forefront of recognizing that, you know, education, I think the director of technology coined this phrase for me. He said, learning continuity. Like, how do we make sure that our kids are continually learning during, you know, these times? We talk about, we want lifelong learners. So it's time for the adults. It was time for the adults to say, hey, we're going to make sure that if we believe in the statement lifelong learning, that we're going to figure out how that learning can continue. And it'll be different from the classroom, but it's going to be learning anyway.
yeah, yeah, you know, there was a lot of pressure kind of put on school districts all throughout the world, you know, but
Yes.
kind of talking about Milpitas, you know, it's like you said, you guys have always been, you know, even since I was in elementary school, you guys have always been committed to being lifelong learners, and that includes during a pandemic. Uh, and you guys kind of were faced with a very unique challenge of how do we continue to be lifelong learners through a time where we can't leave our house. We have to shelter in place, and that kind of leads pretty well into what you guys are doing now, which is distance learning. Is that what you guys call it? Distance learning?
So there's a couple different terms. There's distance learning, there's flexible learning, and what Milpitas has done, or Milpitas Unified School District has done, is that we've kind of come up with our own little phrase. We call it "Educate Everywhere."
Oh, I like that. I like that.
You know, and the goal is that we want our kids and our families to know that, you know, education goes on everywhere. So if you're in the classroom, if you're not in the classroom, education continues. Learning always continues. So we've decided that we're going to try to figure out how to make sure we can continue to educate our students everywhere, wherever they may be, because, you know, because of economics or whatever else, some of our students may have had to leave the region. You know, we're still doing research on that. Some of our students, you know, are staying directly. They're not able to come to the school, but they're, you know, at home, or they're with relatives. We have homeless students that need to continue their education, you know, in homeless shelters or wherever there may be. So we really look at the everywhere to make sure that we're trying to be as inclusive as possible for all of our students wherever they may be. And you're right, there is a lot of stress going on. You know, our response, I'm very proud of the fact that, you know, we had an emergency board meeting on Friday evening, because we were going to make the decision whether or not, can't remember the exact date, but it was the same date where the governor and the county had all both recommended shelter in place. And we were going to have a board meeting to decide whether or not, or we had a board meeting to decide whether or not we were going to continue school that following week. But the announcement by the governor and by the county officials, which we have been closely monitoring, allowed us to say, okay, now we're moving full steam ahead. And after that announcement, 4 days later, that following Thursday, we began to engage students, our tech team, the distribution of Chromebooks, more than 1,000 Chromebooks distributed. I think the district has done more than 30,000 meals for kids from 0 to 18. So I'm just very proud of the work that we've done. By far, we know that we're not perfect. We're learning, but we dove in without hesitancy. All of the district leaders stepped up and said, you know what, this is Milpitas, this is for our kids, in belief and in support of our superintendent's leadership. And again, really just talking to a lot of different audiences. Spoke to the PTA, we talked to a number of organizations about the direction, and they were all like, saying, how can we help? What can we do? But then most importantly, they were saying, how are we going to educate our kids? And to talk a little bit more about Educate Everywhere, it's a combination of things. We have some teachers that are using Zoom, and some classrooms have been Zoom bombed, yes. We're looking to move everybody towards Google Meet, because Google Meet is a safe and secure environment. All of our kids have Gmail addresses. So in order to get in Gmail into Google Meet, it's a secure environment.
Yeah.
Yes, Zoom has come up with some patches, but still, the Google platform is the platform that the district uses. And the goal is for all of our educators and folks to get comfortable on that platform while we figure out what's going to be best overall. Because again, we have privacy issues, data security and those types of things. So Google Meet is where we're supposed to be standardized on. But I got to say this, when this thing happened, Google came out of the box beautifully. I mean, they just said, hey, free, use it. And a lot of folks jumped on it. Features were easy to use, and they went for it. So we were grateful that everybody decided to embrace it. And then now we're learning how to tweak our environment. Yep, there are some features in Zoom that are better than Google Meet. There are some things in Google Meet that are more beneficial to students as far as education is concerned. So there's the Google Meet going on, there's the Zoom going on, there's also Google Classroom, which we use. There are some students that have a combination of online platform, we call PLP, our personalized learning platform. There are teachers or there are schools that are also providing packet-based work. So we have it all. We have packets and online, we have packets and meetings. All of our kids are learning to get together. Parents have been amazing in supporting their students and getting online and seeing all of their classmates, for the first time using an online platform. We have some teachers that have even gone into their classrooms and done lectures from their classrooms, like live broadcast types of things. So, the MUSD Educate Everywhere theme is really happening in that way. And while I can talk about it, very excited and very prideful, I can also say that it's hard. It's hard work. Our teachers and staff have commented on the fact that, the work is almost doubled in some ways, because now it's not the students going to them in a classroom environment based on a bell schedule. It's our teachers going to them, going out into community on online platforms, on picking up the phone, about just a completely different way in terms of going about the education process. And we're doing it CDC as far as, 3 years old, all the way up to our adult learners at adult. Milpitas Unified School District is commonly seen as K-12, but we're beyond that. We are, ages 3 years of age with our CDC, with our adult learners, and now even the community college. So we're 3 years to, however you can go as far as learning is concerned. And everybody is figuring out the best thing to do on behalf of the residents and those that are enrolled in Milpitas Unified School District.
There is probably a good amount of hiccups, but I guess one of the big challenges is that it's not like you guys had like a 1 month test period where you could figure out exactly what works best and what software has the best features. It's kind of, you just were kind of thrown into this and you're just like, well, we have to do this now, trial by fire. We got to learn. But I have to say, from what I've heard, you guys have killed it so far. And that has to, the credit goes to the teachers, the parents, the students, obviously, but also you guys have some amazing technical staff in the district. Your
Yes,
IT guys, helping out with everything that they possibly can, getting
yes,
all the Chromebooks distributed, and then also your guys' volunteers that you have for the actual distribution of the Chromebooks. And then, of course, we have to send a thanks to Google too, for, kind of stepping up in this crisis and kind of, saying like it's free, use it, but also just kind of having the software. And, you guys are using Chromebooks as well. And so, Google software will go great on a Google device. I've heard that Zoom has had some quality issues on some Chromebooks. Kind of like the video or audio quality isn't quite as good, but because Google software is kind of optimized for Google hardware, it works really well. But I have to say, you guys, your technical team, your teachers, the parents, the students, the school board, everyone, you guys nailed it, and that was a really amazing sight to see here.
thank you. And I appreciate the kind words, and we are getting positive feedback and in terms of what the district has been doing. And I would say that this work began long before this pandemic happened. When so I don't know. So 2011, crazy story. There was no technology really in Milpitas at all.
Mm-hmm.
No Wi-Fi, no Chromebooks. I mean, I know folks can't, it's hard to believe, but MUS, Milpitas Unified School District, was somewhat in the Stone Age when it came to technology. And the board, 2 boards ago, they began to move in that direction aggressively, and then also under the leadership of Kerry Matsuoka, previous superintendent, and then he brought in our amazing tech director now, Chin Song, and partnering with Google and Gmail and Google Classroom and students having email accounts and communicating that way and just really being forward thinking. You take that, board members, Dan Bobay and Guan Alasantosa and Marsha Grilli being in a longtime community leader and moving in a direction that was more reflective of Silicon Valley, plus the families that were moving into Milpitas, what they were looking for. And then you take that, and we become a Google partner. We start testing things. As a matter of fact, Google has come to Milpitas Unified School District as well as other leaders. We've had state superintendent. We had, of course, controversially a couple years ago, Betsy DeVos come to see. So Milpitas is a very, very unique environment when it comes to trying to figure out how to do the best we can in education for a public school system. So you take that, you move that forward, and then we have the transition from Kerry Matsuoka to the interim superintendent, Cheryl Jordan. Cheryl Jordan, being from HR, being I think a 30+ year employee of the district, and just getting to know a lot of people over the time and seeing the changes in the transition, she implements this thing called culture of we. And she believed in it. She believed that we have to do everything, not me, not the executive cabinet, but we as a group, we have to work together. We have to find solutions. We have to think about the future of our kids, and then, so we started to create this we identity in terms of working together. And it was clunky. I mean, folks were like, what's culture of we? What does it mean? It's not clear. And we weren't all, and not everything was as cohesive because it was a brand new concept. But slowly but surely, the board bought into it. Slowly but surely, our association leaders began to recognize that Cheryl really meant we, and not me. She wasn't trying to run the district from a dictatorial standpoint, but from a collective standpoint. And so when we began to talk about the possibility of having to transition to school from online, there were a large number of stakeholders. I mean, I can't even think, but it was in the hundreds. I think more than half the district had a chance to participate in the conversation or get their message to someone that they could hear their voice would be heard. So we weren't shocked when we had to make the transition. When we did, everybody had some buy-in, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing everybody had either a connection to a buy-in or an opportunity for their voice to be heard, and some tough conversations about, what do we really want to do? I think one of the things that came out of it was that when we talked about school being out and how long it could be out, one of the things, at least me personally, I thought about was what happens when we return? How large of a learning gap are our kids going to have if they're not engaged for a month or two or whatever that might be? There's 36 weeks in a school year, approximately 6 hours a day. So that gives you some 1,000 hours of learning. So if you miss a third of the school year, a sixth grader is really not going to be a seventh grader that next year. They're going to be a 6.5, and seventh grade teachers want to teach seventh grade curriculum. So how do you try to create an environment where kids are continually learning through no matter what happens?
Well, so talking about the environment and all that, can you so with the distance learning or educate everywhere, do you guys have like kind of a set kind of curriculum on what that looks like, or is it kind of different for every teacher? Does every teacher kind of plan out like the schedule and the curriculum and kind of how they're going to do their online teaching, or is it did you guys kind of set like a template for everyone to follow?
That's the beauty of it. And when you understand, when we have an idea of teaching, every teacher has a different lens. They have a slightly different approach. It's not a one size fits all. But the thing that we wanted to embrace was the fact that we wanted each teacher to find their own way, to find their own voice, and then also to leverage their peers. We have teachers that are senior that are learning from our younger teachers that have been plugged in all their lives. I mean, if you really think about it, internet, Wi-Fi, all of those things are things of the past 20 years, or past 15 years, 20 years or so. But we have teachers that have been teaching longer than that in a traditional classroom where technology isn't the dominant force. Now, I will say that there's a flip side, and the flip side is that, okay, now that we're accumulating all of this screen time, how do we find a way to balance the screen time? So the teachers that have packets in combination with online learning and the Google Meet and then other things, are trying to also look at that balance, because there are some teachers that say, you know what, technology is the way to go. I'm going to drive it that way. Other teachers are like, I want to make sure I have this balance. Technology is just a tool. It is not the end all be all. So to answer your question in just one sentence is that there's a variety of different ways that our teachers are approaching this, because they know their grade levels, they know the skills that the kids need to walk away with for the next year. And then we have to be thoughtful about which students do not have the environment to be conducive for them to learn because of distance learning. The reality is sometimes the school environment is the best place for a number of kids to learn. And some kids aren't going to be able to learn very well with this going on, even though this is happening. So that's some of the things that we're learning or we're discovering about. There are students that really need the space. They need the classroom. They need the structure, while others can strive in multiple environments. But the reality is right now, we have to be optimistic about every student developing, and parents, because the parents now are getting a different lens in terms of what education actually looks like, what their teachers are actually doing with their children or 20 plus children on a daily basis, or for middle school teachers who have 150 or 120 students on a daily basis. It's like, wow, how do they do it? They're amazing.
Well, so that's actually really interesting and actually pretty cool because, if you were to kind of compare it to a corporate setting, let's say like sales or something,
Mhm.
and they have to roll out a new structure, the corporate managers are going to be like, okay, this is your new structure, stick to this. And then you're going to have some salespeople who kind of say like, no, I know my clients, this will not work for them.
Yep.
Let me do my own thing. And they say,
Yep.
no, you have to do it this way. But
Yep.
you guys are doing the opposite approach, where you guys are kind of saying like, hey, you guys know your teaching style, you guys know your students, um, teach in a way that will be the best for them. You're giving the teachers the power, um, and in my opinion, that's the best move you can make. Just because they're the experts of their students,
Yeah.
and
And I don't
they're
know.
going to do what's
So
best for them.
I want to push a little bit. I don't know if we would say that we're giving the teachers the power, because it's not the power for us to give. Uh,
Mhm,
the role of a school district and the role of a governance team, in my opinion, is to
mhm.
create a framework for education to happen at the highest level.
Yeah.
And highest level is relative to what resources you have, what funding you have, what's your infrastructure, and what your predecessors have done before you,
Mhm,
and then where you want to go in the future. So I think that the district, along with the the district leadership, along with the association leaders and the site leaders and the teachers, have said this is what we believe is best, and this is the direction that we'd like to go. It's not perfect, but it's best. And then we
mhm.
began to open up and create environments. Again, you have teachers that are collaborating across schools. You have teachers that are collaborating with their peers that aren't in this region. There is no bad idea,
Mhm.
in this time. It is, okay, does this work? Oh yeah, this part of it works, but this doesn't. Okay, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to throw that out. We're going to keep iterating, until till each teacher finds his rhythm or her rhythm or groove based at their skill level, and their grade level, to do the best for their students. Again, parents have been really appreciative. We've had some hiccups in some areas that we're trying to work on diligently improving. um, when it comes to serving all students, but again, it's been an incredible journey. Um, and you'll keep hearing me talk about the way that we are going to celebrate Milpitas Unified, um, parents and teachers and students and all those things. When this is done, is going to be huge. And I think that allows me to chime into one other point that I think is going to come up. Yes, we are going to celebrate the class of 2020 from Milpitas High School. We have to.
Yeah.
We are going to celebrate the eighth graders transitioning to ninth grade. We're going to celebrate the kindergartners transitioning to first grade. What that looks like, I don't know. But we are not going to allow those milestones, or this current pandemic issue, to stop the fact that we have kids that have done an incredible job, that need to be recognized, that we want to recognize them, and not only them, but their parents. I'm a parent. I got a sophomore at Milpitas High School, and now I have a freshman in college. Getting a child through K-12 is an accomplishment as much for the parent as it is for the student. So
I know I
yeah,
gave my mom a headache and a half.
yeah. So we're
Well,
gonna celebrate that.
I'm very interested to see what that's going to look like, and I think it's very possible that the graduating seniors and the graduating eighth graders deserve possibly an even bigger party.
Yeah, yeah, hey, I think there's gonna be multiple parties.
Oh, that's good.
I think there are going to be multiple parties. Oh, sorry, don't let me use the word party. There are going to be multiple events
Events.
that acknowledge the accomplishments of the students and their
Celebration.
families. Yes,
So
absolutely.
actually, on that point, what about things like senior prom?
Senior prom. Right now, that has been canceled.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, will the seniors find a way to get together and celebrate in some way when we have some ability to assemble together? I believe so. Will there be some adults that get involved? Absolutely. And I would be remiss to mention that the principal of the high school has formed a graduating 2020 committee, which
Oh.
also involves parents. So parents that have graduating seniors, they can email Francis Rojas at Milpitas Unified School District to say, hey, I want to be a part of that committee to plan out what we're going to do for our graduating seniors. So that is definitely something that he's put out there. Very proud of him and his leadership in terms of what's going on at the high school. That's our biggest campus, 3,200 plus students. You know, all of their teachers are engaged. There are teachers that are making videos. Like there are some, I know at the middle school, I believe there are the PE teacher making PE videos for the kids to practice exercising at home.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, yeah, there's just a lot of amazing stuff that's going on. And if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about that. We've had several students that have created small nonprofits. There's Read with a Cause, where kids are online reading books to other kids or that parents can use. There's Maskify, where Milpitas students are doing masks for first responders. There's another one where letters are being written to first responders in appreciation. There's just a number of different things. Corona Recovery, where high school students are delivering food and necessities to senior citizens in Milpitas. There's just a lot of great work going on. And again, I kind of bring it back to the fact that when there was a leadership change in the district and Cheryl, Superintendent Jordan, moved toward the culture of we and really began to bring in more thoughts, more ideas, more energy around everyone being a part owner. Here's a great example. You know, I'm a football fan. Green Bay Packers, I don't know if you know, but the Green Bay Packer football team is owned by the residents. They all have stock. You know, they carry
Oh,
it.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah, so the Green Bay owns that football team. So in Milpitas Unified School District, everybody is a part owner in the outcomes for students. Everyone. And if you've ever been to a board meeting, you see we celebrate everybody every week.
Yeah.
Whether it's a custodian, secretary, teacher, administrator, kids' achievements, we're always acknowledging, because you have to have an optimistic approach. They're our future. You know,
Yeah.
our
Well,
goal.
when you talk about sorry to interject real quick.
No
When
worries.
you talk about the meetings, you know, I've personally been to quite a few school board meetings. But you know, when you go to a city council meeting, it's almost like a little intimidating. Our mayor does a pretty good job of, you know, lightening things up and making people feel welcome, but it doesn't. I'm not slamming them or anything, but it doesn't really compare to when you walk into a school board meeting. You feel welcomed. You know, I've seen you multiple times. You know, when I've went, you like 10 minutes before the meeting, you're out there, you're just talking to people and you're welcoming people, you're shaking hands. And well, not right now, you're not shaking hands right now, but if you walk into a school board meeting, you feel welcomed, and so, you know, I definitely can see, you know, from my own experience, what you mean by that.
You know, you bring up a great point. I've learned that the work of the city council and the work of the school district is very different. It's different work. You know, our audience, our parents and students and community members and those types of things. And when they come to us, it's something to do with, and you know, the education space. And the more that we take the approach, the celebratory approach, the more engagement that we get, because it is very intimidating to walk up to that podium and say whatever you say, whether or not you're happy or you're really upset about something or whatever else. So we try to create an environment that is relative to that, because we know that we have kids in the audience. You know, literally, we have kids and parents. Whereas the city council, it's a bit more intense. It's a bit more, I would say, structured in the environment. And all of the city council members have the city's best interests at heart from different perspectives. So yeah, they are definitely different environments, and we have worked to be complementary um, with education, and we see the fact that what the city council and what they do is very, very important as well. You bring up a great point. As far as the city and the city council has been, we have been on weekly calls,
Yeah.
with the city council, with several of the city council members and the city managers, just coordinating activities. What can we do together? What are you hearing? What are our possibilities? How can we continue to work together? Because we know that collectively we represent the governance of the city from different perspectives. We reach 10,300 plus kids, plus their caregivers or parents. The city reaches all of the residents of the city, the seniors, so on and so forth, in a number of different ways. So our ability to have a good working relationship has also been significant in this. City council members show up to graduations, they show up to sporting events, they've shown up, really big time. And I think that's another thing, now that you bring it up, over the last couple of years that's really changed, is that city council has recognized the school district and the school board as allies in this work of how to create, an amazing city.
Mm-hmm. Well, over the past couple of years, I have noticed a lot more collaboration between the city and the school district, but especially right now when it's just so crucially needed. Your guys' collaboration has been it's been an amazing sight to see. But it's not just right now. You guys have been collaborating a lot more recently. I mean, I'm in the planning commission, and another commissioner, Bill Chwana, is another commissioner. We're both drivers for your guys' parade.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
because he brought in the Lucky Milpitas red truck, and I borrowed my dad's car, and we packed him, and we were both drivers, and the whole city council was there. It was an amazing sight to see. But kind of focusing a little bit more on right now, your guys' joint press releases, your guys' weekly calls, you're always there to support each other. There's a couple things I do want to focus on
Sure.
right this second, and it has to do with your guys' outreach. I personally know a lot about the meal programs and the meals you guys have distributed. So can you explain a little bit of how that works? So it's up to 18 years old, and is it at the school sites? Is that where they can pick it up, or
Yes.
and also, do you have to be a student at MUSD to pick up the meal?
No. So you don't have to be a student of to pick up a meal at MUSD, 0 to 18 years of age. There are several different location sites, and we try to distribute them around the town. And so when the program was originally launched, we had food distribution sites, I believe, at all the schools. And then we noticed that there were some schools that were receiving lots of traffic and some schools that were receiving hardly any traffic. So in order to try to acknowledge the shelter in place a bit more, we began to consolidate, saying, okay, where is the majority of the need at? And then we'll redirect. Then we'll allow the staff at those school sites to do other work, to work on their social distancing, and then we can focus the areas where they are. So now I believe we're distributing food at 4 different sites around the district, around the town, and so we've also been able to partner with the food pantry in Milpitas. So they've needed some volunteers. We've been able to put a call out in partnership with the city to ensure that the food pantry has volunteers. Again, it's just been an amazing collaboration. And I would be remiss not to acknowledge the nonprofit organizations, Kiwanis, Rotary, Lions, oh goodness, I can't, Chamber. There's just been a number of nonprofit organizations that have been in partnership with us, reaching out to us, asking us questions, saying if we need things. Knights of Columbus, everybody just, again, just being involved. Milpitas is I think I've heard 14 by 14 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a core group that have been here more than 20 years. And there's been a new group of folks that have either grown up or they've come in and they've dove right in terms of saying, we want to be a part. And that is what, you're somewhat witnessing here, because every school board member has, a number of community members in their ear about, here's what we're hearing, here's what needs to be fixed, here's what needs to be changed, here's what's working well. Every school board member kind of has their heartbeat on, what's going on next door. They have some monitoring of of social media and those types of things. So the combination of those things, and that we're willing to listen, I think that's what you're witnessing right now, and we hope that we'll able to continue that type of work.
That's amazing. I love that. So the next thing is you guys have done a phenomenal job of distributing the Chromebooks for students who need it. So the other side of that, what about internet?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now, not everyone has internet access. And we have purchased some hotspots. There are some families that are allowing their neighbors to use their Wi-Fi to get online for schoolwork. I'm a part of a couple of groups outside of this region in working with the county. I put this out there and I'll say it again. Silicon Valley, the internet needs to be available like water.
Yeah.
Everybody just has to have it. It's not a luxury. It's not everybody needs to buy it. Everybody needs to have access to it.
Period. It's a necessity.
Yes.
Nowadays. You can't do anything without the internet anymore. It's amazing.
No, you can't. Right. So, and that's becoming more apparent. Even though all of our kids are familiar, whether it's PDAs, whether they're doing something at school, but now the reality is it just needs to be throughout the community. It just needs to be available, and that's being realized. So there are some shortcomings, and we're still working to get over those shortcomings. We've had to swap out some Chromebooks because some of them haven't worked the way that we wanted to. But again, Chin Song and the IT team of the school district has done a masterful job of making sure. And in Google Chrome, in terms of they have plugins for students with special needs and those types of things. So we're trying to think about everybody and everything that's out there under the sun moving forward.
And I know one cool thing about MUSD is if a student or a parent were to reach out specifically and be like, hey, my student can't learn because of this problem. I know you guys would do everything in your power to fix that problem for that person specifically. Yeah. I've been there. I was a student, so I've been there. And I know if you reach out, the individual care you can get is just insane, which is, why I love MUSD so much.
The network. Yes. It's the network. You reach out, you ask, we'll find a resource. And here's a key thing. You don't stop asking, you build in that resiliency, and there's different levels. And I appreciate the thing that I appreciate about being a board member is that when people come to me with things, they will talk to me about what they've exhausted. And the folks that come to me for the first time, they're like, well, I need this. And I'm like, have you spoken to your teacher? Have you spoken to your child? Have you spoken to the principal? Have you spoken to someone at the district level? And they ask me, I'm like, because now you're coming to a board member. And although I can't do anything directly, I can ask.
Yeah.
And when I do ask, I'm going to look at how it connects to systems, how it connects to fiscal responsibility, how it connects to the outcomes that we are providing, to our families in the city. Again, there are definitely, a lot of differing viewpoints. Milpitas is a high achieving school district, but we also have kids that are struggling. 30% of our students are free and reduced lunch program. So we have a wide spectrum of wealth. We have a wide spectrum of academic ability. We have a wide spectrum of opportunity. I mean, on the one hand, we're state champs in football. We're also champions in debate. We're also champions in mathematics. We're also champions. Our theater program has traveled overseas. So there's a whole lot of different things that comes out of Milpitas. We have the youth soccer programs, the rebirth of the soccer programs. There's just a lot of different things that are going on. Our music program, over 1,000 kids in the program and growing.
I was in the music program.
So again, so you kind of have the sense of the environment and what we're trying to produce. We want kids to have options, whatever they may be, to be able to follow their dreams. And because I was able to, the resume that you heard at the beginning was based on the fact that I came to Milpitas when I was in 3rd grade. So, and we have data that shows that the longer kids are in Milpitas, that they're going to find their voice, they're going to find their way, and they're going to figure out how to do, great things. Mayor, Milpitas High School graduate. Mm-hmm. Police chief, Milpitas High School graduate.
Milpitas is a special place, and it's hard to leave. In a previous podcast, somehow my dream living scenario came up, and I expressed how I would love to live on a ranch, with a lot of animals, but I'm just like, my alternative, if I have to live in a city, I want to live in Milpitas. Mm-hmm. I don't want to leave. In my opinion, where I live is, when it comes to city, living, it's the best. The community, the schools, how much the government cares, and we're a small city, and so it's like it's easy to get to know your mayor personally.
Yes.
If you were to move to San Jose, it's not easy. Yeah. It's also easy to know your school superintendent personally. Yes. And the school board members, and yes. It just the tight wrap community that we have is just something that's amazing. And I know plenty of people who grew up in Milpitas who still live here. And most people, if they can afford it, they want to live
here. Yeah, agreed. I wanted to make sure that I added something to our conversation, Tim. And
yeah, go for it.
I think it's important for our residents and our parents to remember that the Milpitas Unified School District staff and teachers, they're human beings first. Mm-hmm. Their moms, their dads, their brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. But all of them are committed to the best outcome for their kids. Their lives have been dramatically changed in a matter of weeks. Mm-hmm. Dramatic in a different way. Now, some have been laid off where they're trying to figure out things, but they've been asked to do a job in a way that they've never been trained, that they haven't been introduced to, almost immediately.
And probably something that a lot of them never really thought they would be doing. Like it was never a thought in their head.
Right. And we have some teachers that are struggling. We have some teachers that are thriving. When you go from teaching in a classroom 180 days to now doing it virtually online, and you don't have that same human interaction, we're talking about there are going to be teacher parades where they can drive by, the kids' neighborhoods. There's a lot of things that we're thinking about how that our teachers can actually get a chance to see their kids and connect with their kids, because they miss them. Mm-hmm. And our classified team members, they miss the human interaction and the responsibility that they have as well. And so I'm hopeful that as we figure out ways, I'm really, besides the party, I'm really looking at ways to figure out how to honor them in a different way, because while we're at work during the day from 8 to 5 or wherever else, however that goes, there's 900 plus individuals that are making sure that a significant portion of the children of Milpitas are fed, they're educated, they're taken care of, and they're loved. And not everybody is built to do that career. And so for those that have chosen those careers, we need to respect it, we need to honor it, we need to appreciate it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm proud to be on the board, and that's what I fight for every day.
That's amazing. I love that. So we're going to start wrapping up here. Sure. I want to ask you, I think we kind of covered everything I wanted to go through. Um, is there any kind of benediction send off that anyone who is uncertain or worried, or just scared or concerned about it, is there any kind of final messages you wanna send everyone off with?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I guess it comes partially from my, faith belief, in, there's more to this life than this experience that we're going through. But I would say, this isn't our first crisis.
Hmm.
Um, it's our biggest crisis to date, but it's not our first crisis. There was, for those that were around, October 1989, there was the Loma Prieta earthquake.
Hmm.
September 11th, 2001, 911. There was the SARS virus, 2003. There was a housing market crash, 2008. We live in a time where we can see the world in perpetual crisis. There's always something going on. The Bay Area is known for innovating in the time of crisis. And Milpitas Unified School District is striving to do the same thing. We're trying to innovate in the time of crisis. You know, fear paralyzes. Vision and hope and perspective on the fact that we're all human beings. That when we come together, we can figure things out. Remember, there was a mask shortage for a while, and everybody was worried about that.
Hmm.
Folks didn't panic. I mean, there's a lot of conversation. Next thing you know, everybody started to make masks. We can make masks. I was like, wow. We went from, and then there wasn't enough equipment. Then all of a sudden, everybody began to create ideas. We can make this equipment for our first responders.
Yeah.
We're not going to have enough hospital beds. They started turning schools and convention centers and all these things into makeshift hospitals.
Yeah.
There wasn't going to be a cure. Now they're looking at the antibodies of those that have been healed. They're looking at expediting these vaccines. There's just a lot of things that are going on towards innovation. Somebody told me a long time ago that you should always have 3 months of money.
Hmm.
Always, no matter what it is. You should have 3 months. If you're not going to get another dime, you should have 3 months of money, period, for rent, food, whatever else. And if you
Hmm.
think about the timing of this, that tends to ring true.
Yeah.
And for those of us that didn't have or don't have the 3 months of money, you have there's some place or somewhere to lean on. And it might be more difficult than you planned it. It might have been unexpected. We are losing loved ones. And yes, it is devastating. No one wants to lose a loved one when they didn't have to,
Yeah.
but again, we live in a time of perpetual crisis, and we can be prepared, or we can best prepare for those things. And one of the things that I know Milpitas Unified School District leadership thinks about is that by continuing education for our children and doing it the best that we can, we are helping them to understand that learning matters. Education is important no matter what. And from a school district perspective, in partnership with the city and community organizations, the county, we've had messages. I don't know if you've seen them. Assemblyman Canson Chu, Congressman Rokana, Supervisor Dave Cortese have all sent messages out to Milpitas saying, hey, keep up the good work, keep pushing, keep setting the example, because you're not only giving your residents hope, but you're giving others hope by your citizens and your educators and everyone talking about what you're doing in Milpitas. So we appreciate that.
Well, couldn't have said it better myself. um, Chris, thank you so much for your leadership, everything you're doing for the students here and the parents, and especially the vulnerable students who are in a tough spot right now. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. Um, hope to have you back on to discuss more.
It's
uh,
you'll hear this phrase, it's teamwork that makes the dream work. So I appreciate the kind words that you give me. but it's the team that's making it happen. It's
Oh,
teamwork that makes the dream work.
yeah. No, most definitely. And if the other board members were here and the superintendent and all the teachers, I would tell them the same thing
Awesome.
individually. I'm singling you out. You're here, but no,
Thank you.
really, from what I've noticed as a half outsider, I'm involved, so I'm not really an outsider, but kind of a partial outsider. You guys are doing amazing work. You're working very hard. And just thank you to you specifically, but thank you to everyone. And when you see them next, please pass on my gratitude
Absolutely.
and my love and my
Absolutely.
respect.
I will do that.
Um, so hope to have you on again soon. It was a great chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.